Well, hello, my beautiful Mojo Tears. It is Jackson Galaxy, your cat daddy. Are we ready to get cat-rific today? Yeah, I said that. Today, we're going to take another one of your questions and see how it applies to your life with your cats because, you know, I'm sure it will, as the other ones have as well. And I'm going to say this right off the top, you guys. If you want your questions considered, I would love to hear them. And all you got to do is go to this link right here and upload your question. As you're going to see today, Nick uploaded his question about his cat Felix. Let's take a look.
Hey Jackson, my name's Nick and this over here is my lovely little boy Felix. Just give you a bit of a background as well. Felix is a 5-year-old domestic shorthair. I adopted him from a rescue shelter. According to the rescue shelter staff, Felix's previous owners were pretty abusive towards him, and I'm pretty sure that traumatized him, unfortunately. He bolts at any sort of loud noise or sudden movement, and if I get too close, same thing. He was also turned out on the streets for a year by his owners before them. He's got FIV, he's had feline flu, he's also got a deformity on his front paw. But despite all of that, I can tell that underneath that is a really lovely cat who just wants to love and be loved. I mean, I can still sort of gently give him soft neck scratch and he's happy with that, but anything else or getting any closer, he's not happy. As you can see, he's on his little cat tower here with right next to the window. You can't really see it from this angle, but there's a bird feeder in the tree outside to give him some cat TV. I've made a cat highway for him as best I can within the rules of my rental tenancy agreement. No bolting or sticking things to walls. But what else can I try and do to help Felix really understand that it's safe here? He doesn't, he can get over that trauma, that there's no danger to him. What can I do to help him with that trauma? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know, and hope to hear from you soon.
Nick, first of all, come on. I know that I'm echoing everybody's sentiments here by saying thank you. Thank you for rescuing a cat who needed rescue. Felix just needed some love, needed some rescue, man. I mean, that's a tough life that this boy led. Apparently, what I'm hearing here is that not only was he abused in his last home, but he was neglected in the home before that, where he was just basically turned out in the street, having to fend for himself for the most part. So now, man, he hit the Nick gravy train, and he's got a good life. And I really want to immediately turn myself to one moment where, Nick, you said this.
He bolts at any sort of loud noise or sudden movement, and if I get too close, same thing.
All right, so Nick, this is really interesting. That thing that you said, I'm sure may very well be true. I'm sure it is true, otherwise you wouldn't say it. But I want you to notice this, Nick. Let's look at this one more time. Felix is saying, hey, what's that out there? It was nothing. And you, Nick, are standing almost literally right on top of him. And you're speaking at pretty much a normal voice. So what does this tell us? This tells us that Felix has already sort of gotten past an initial hump of PTSD in his life. Now you're petting him and you're saying that he's not good with touch. What you say and what I'm seeing, not gelling together. He's already actually gotten better. A lot of times when cats are feeling threatened, you're gonna see their ears do a lot more of that sort of radar dish thing where they turn it around. What's the threat behind me? What's the threat to the side? Their ears will communicate a lot of what might be suspicion, apprehension, fear. None of that going on right now with Felix. He's just sitting in his bed, he's feeling comfortable, and on top of that, Nick, he's feeling comfortable with you. So a lot of the question that you're asking me, you're answering for yourself. You know how they say that time heals all wounds. Well, maybe not time alone. Time and safety and love, that kind of heals all wounds, right? And that's my advice to you. First and foremost, let time pass. Do whatever you're doing right now, whether it's human or non-human animal. We take trauma, we compartmentalize trauma, but there's always going to be triggers. And that, of course, is what post-traumatic stress disorder is manifested by, is triggers, As he gets more and more comfortable with you, one thing that you may do is gently start exposing him to the sounds that trigger him. Let's say it was the sound of an ambulance. going by. You know, the approaching wail of an ambulance, and as it goes by, maybe that sends him skittering under a bed. You identify the trigger to sort of diminish his reaction to that stimulus. So what you would do is you would take a recording of an ambulance and then you would put it really down low, almost subliminally. Then you do something positive like petting, playing, feeding, eat, play, love. You take all of those positives and you couple it with that negative down low. The negative starts to go away because there's positive associations surrounding it. And then on a daily basis, you just goose up that volume just a little bit, and then you'll see over time that he will become desensitized to that negative stimulus, and it will just, take its place where it should be, in the back of his mind instead of in the front. So that's one thing that you can do to help him get past his trauma. Now, a lot of times with cats who have suffered physical abuse, hands become a negative association in themselves because hands, in his experience, were weapons. And unfortunately, Nick, the vast majority of animal abusers are male. There we go. We get to stand up for our whole gender. Yippee. That said, reacquainting him with hands as positives is really important. One of the things that I would recommend you doing is using what I call the Michelangelo technique of touching a cat. What people tend to do when they first meet a cat or when they go to pet a cat in general, we go over the top of their head. That in itself, especially with a cat who's been traumatized physically, is a threatening move, going over the top of their head. You're doing something and I don't know where you're going. You're approaching me like this. That's a threat, and especially with a hand, which has been associated with a weapon. So the best thing that you can do is, instead of petting like that, the Michelangelo technique, which I will show you right now. This is why I call it that, because it looks like sort of the Sistine Chapel, you get it? And it goes like this. Your hand goes out sort of like a nose, right? You're just going like this. And your hand is down low, and you're asking him to explore your hand. So in this case, when he's up in his tree, you can just reach out towards his nose with a relaxed finger like this. What I would expect Felix to do is react to it as it's another nose, and that's usually a friendly greeting, and he'll press up against your finger. You use that finger then to let him guide you where he's most comfortable, usually the cheek, the top of the head, something like that. You're getting to know Felix that way. How does he enjoy touch? And are we teaching him to enjoy touch for the first time? The Michelangelo has always been my best bet at getting a scared cat to trust your hand. Now, if Felix is so far, removed from that pleasurable experience, then just don't use your hands at all for now. Get him to appreciate hands as giving treats. So you're just putting it on the floor, you're putting down a bowl of food, he enjoys that, that hand is associated with that. Petting comes way last. Your hands can be associated with a lot of bad things, even if you don't mean it to happen. So use hands last. Another hint when dealing with a traumatized animal is, I don't know why we do this, you guys. I have no idea why we do this. But whenever we're a little apprehensive, scared, or whatever, we tend to stare. And that's the last thing that you want to do. I mean, when you're assessing a threat, someone looking like this at you, no, not so great. What I would tell you to do is not just avoid eye contact, but use your eyes as a loving greeting. If you don't know about the cat I love you or the slow blink, check out this video up here. That's a really great introduction to how you can introduce yourself in a loving way to a cat. And also, as your relationship progresses through the years, that slow blink, my friends, that's gold, man, because your cat will blink back at you. And that's us saying, I love you, man. I love you too, dude. All right, then you're broing up with Felix. All right, so between hands and eyes, those are the ways that you can help mitigate the threat that he might be feeling. The last thing I would tell you is, you said that you had set up a cat superhighway to the best of your ability. You also did mention how in your apartment that you can't put things into the wall, and that's something we hear all the time when we're talking about catification. But what you can do is use his favorite cat tree, his favorite that's his little portable base camp right there. Use it as sort of a hub for your catification. So it could be something as simple as a piece of wood with some carpet taped to it, and that becomes a ramp from the floor up to his tree, then another one down to someplace else. Now you can take that and attach that piece of wood to a chair that you have nearby or a bookcase or something like that. Slowly get him used to being able to traverse the vertical world, because again, it might not be something that he's used to having in his life. He has told you that he's a tree dweller, right? Because he dwells in his tree and he loves being in his tree and he loves watching the world and he's comfortable and he's got his blanket up there and everything else. So use that as your catification hub. And from there, the spokes come out of the hub. Last little thing for you, Felix. He's got that little blankie in his bed that he loves so much. I've talked a lot about the concept of base camp expansion. Things that are in that hub, that base camp, that signifies safety and comfort to him, we can use those things to sort of expand out to the rest of the house. So maybe one of those blankets in there, you take that out and you put that on your couch. Replace it with something new. Take a shirt that you've worn and put it in the bed, and he'll marinate it with his scent, and then off it goes to someplace else. So slowly, in those different spots, whether it's around his cat superhighway or in the other socially significant parts of your apartment, your scent mingling with his, what does that equal? Cat mojo. That is confidence in his territory. So there you go. Whether being careful with your hands, your eyes, your voice, which you've done very well, and whether it's just expanding his sense of territorial confidence through base camp expansion and catification, that's the way to do it. Clearly, you have built up trust and love with Felix, even though you might not be all that super aware of it because you live with him day in and day out. Well, me, along with however many other tens of thousands of people who are going to watch this, are all going to say the same thing, Nick. You done good. Felix is getting happier and happier. He's getting more confident with you. We see the physical evidence of that in your video, and I couldn't be happier to help somebody like you and you helping someone like Felix. I want to add in something right here at the end, because I fear sometimes that you seeing somebody who's struggling with a cat who has endured abuse or neglect makes you go, maybe I don't want to go to a shelter and adopt a cat because, maybe I won't be able to help him, or maybe it's just going to be too much of a hassle, and maybe if I just, get a cat from someplace else. Listen, there's always a way forward, and I can tell you one thing, and Nick would be the first one to tell you, the feeling of helping to guide somebody out of the dark and into the light, whether that be a four-legged creature or a two-legged creature, is matched by nothing else. And especially now, in this time where we crave connection, that connection, I can tell you right now, it will make your life quantum leaps better. Your life, not just theirs. So get to it, you guys. Foster or adopt today, just like Nick did, and you'll be paid back 1,000 times, okay? Just take my word for it. All right, everybody, keep those questions coming. And also don't forget to hit the bells and the whistles down here because, you want to see something as heartwarming and lovely as Nick and Felix, don't you? I hope. All right, guys, until next time, all light and all love and all mojo to you. Mwah. Yeah.